Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Crocker Elementary School Building Committee meeting. It's Thursday, March 29th, 3 p.m. People are joining us live in person at the Legislative Affairs Building located at 700 Main Street in Fitchburg. And there are also several people joining by way of Zoom. So my name is Bob Jopel. I'm the Superintendent of Schools and also the Chair of the Crocker Elementary School Building Committee. So my first act of duty for this afternoon will be to call the meeting to order, and we will hear a report from Colliers, our owner's project manager, in regards to the project status and the project schedule and budget stat updates. So I don't know if it's John or Tony, the floor and screen are yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Presuming you can all hear me okay. If you can just give me a signal that you can see the project schedule on the screen, that would be great.
Yep.
Okay, so I thought it'd be good to give the committee a quick update on the schedule and where we're at. A couple of weeks back, early this month, SOM delivered the design development pricing set to our cost estimators. You'll recall that SOM has their own cost estimator under contract, and we, Colliers, on the city's behalf, have hired PM&C to do their cost estimate. Over the last 2 weeks, they've been calculating independently, and over the last 24 or 48 hours, I'd say, they've each submitted to us their cost estimates for review. So going into tomorrow, we have a scheduled reconciliation meeting as a group with the architect, OPM, and our cost estimators, and we're going to be going line by line, confirming scope and reconciling the estimates. On the schedule, we have a delivery date of April 5th to submit the DD package to the MSBA. That is still our target. And going forward from there, we would expect SOM to continue into CDs. That's overall about a 6-month process. We're going to say 3 months till 60% CDs with delivery in July, and then at about October, we would be submitting 100% construction documents. So that's just a high-level overview of the schedule and where we're at before we get into the real meat of the agenda, which is the aforementioned cost estimates. So a lot of numbers here on your screen, but I want to just point you to the few towards the bottom here. So I had mentioned that we had 2 separate cost estimates done. The first one is from the designer's estimator, and that was CHA, and if you can see my little hand on the screen here, $59,588,000, and that is the total cost for construction. And then right next to that, you'll see Collier's estimator's budget, estimate of $56.897 million. So relatively close in terms of the 2 estimates, which tells us that those are in the ballpark of where we probably are in terms of accuracy. However, you will note towards the left this number here of $49.7 million. That is the construction cost that we had at schematic design. So that's a significant increase. I think it's fair to say that this is a result of market conditions. This is not a result of increased scope or as a result of any design increases. Tony, would you like to add any insight here?
Sure. Thank you, John. What you don't see here in this summary is the 2 cost estimates that were prepared almost a year ago now, or about a year ago. We were at schematic design level. Both of those estimates at the time, the same 2 estimators, but with a lot less design documents, had very similar estimates in the $56–57 million range. And when we reconcile those, and we talked about big things like eliminating a lot of the site play areas, reductions within the building, things that we could change to bring the value down, what we call reconcile the 2 estimates and right-size the design, we all settled in, and what was submitted to MSBA for the schematic design was that $49 million mark. So we were at 56, 57. We reconciled down to 49. We stripped a lot of work out of the project. And when John says, you know, it's a matter of economics, really the unit numbers, the quantities of materials, the quantity of design, the size of the building has not grown. Everything that we implemented to take 56 down to 50 has gone up with escalation, pipeline considerations that you hear about, everything that you're hearing about in the past year, from construction materials to insulative materials to petroleum products. This is what that market is currently reflecting. So we're right back to where we started a year ago at that 56, 59 million, if you will. As John said, we're going to go through reconciliation again tomorrow, look for where these two numbers diverge from each other, look at it with the design team, pull them back in. I think we'll probably be successful in getting back to that 56, maybe 55 million, somewhere in there. I don't see us pulling back to the 49 million. And the reason I say that is just in the escalation number that you see up there, one estimator is 1.6 million, the other is 2.4. That escalation is not an escalation of cost to the point of October when we're going to bid, but as you know from previous projects, we escalate to the midpoint of construction. So if we start bidding in October of 2022, we're not going to be midpoint of construction until late 2023. And so that escalation is the estimators trying to forecast, if we've only bought out 50% of the job at 50% of construction, how much of that value is going to go up or how much is going to go down in the summer to fall, winter of 2023. So they're using numbers 4 and 6% respectively. We've been seeing the 6, 7%, even 8% in some trades over the past year, and it's a gamble. Are we going to continue to see that? Are market corrections and market fluctuations going to pull us back and stagnate things at a 2% growth? That would be great. We're all kind of trying to hedge those bets right now. And before we open up for any other questions or concerns, I can tell you we've got 3 projects in the past week that we're having to have this same conversation with clients. We're anywhere between 12 and 18% over on what our budgets were 8 months ago. And again, it's not that there's not a lot of work out there. There's a ton of work out there. People are seeing these numbers and still progressing forward. Contractors are busy and they can't get material. So they're happy to bid a job and then tell you, I can't start. I'm waiting for material. And so this is the challenge that we're all facing.
So, of course, MSBA takes into consideration these unforeseen market forces, correct?
We haven't had that in-depth conversation with our friends at MSBA yet.
But seriously, that would be a conversation, wouldn't it?
It would be a conversation that we will have.
But this is pretty, this is significant.
To John's point, and MSBA has reached out to us recently. They know that we're on the schedule to make an SD submission or a DD submission. And with that, just like we did with the programming PDP submission, the SD submission, we need to package all this up and send it over to them. Their initial reaction is going to be to reach back to the district, right? Because that's what they do, and say, okay, we see your numbers. We see whatever our reconciled number is. Maybe it's 52, 54. They're going to compare that to what's in the authorized MSBA project funding agreement and say, okay, guys, you were funded at 49,774. Anything over that is not reimbursable at the percentage rate, It's 100% yours. Are you moving forward? And so we submit that in April. You can expect over the month of April to mid-May, we're going to have those conversations.
So is there any consideration given to, maybe this is wishful thinking, but the market forces reverse course, so to speak? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's not $5 for a 2x4, it's $1.50 in January of
Right.
'23. You know what I mean?
right. You know, a simple thing.
But
Everything
we're
that gets,
bidding before that.
right,
So whatever we bid at it, we're locked into that.
correct.
Right. Okay.
You know, if I'm a bidder right now and I got to plan on delivering material to that site, am I pricing it at $4.30 a gallon? Or am I pricing it at $2.80 a gallon?
Right.
Now, I can bid it at $3.15 a gallon. Maybe I win, maybe I lose, right?
Yeah.
We're all in the same boat. We're looking at escalation. If I just peel out escalation and I say, things aren't going to continue to go higher, they're going to level off, and I tell the two estimators, carry 1% escalation. They're going to tell me I'm probably crazy. You're going to say, thanks for taking $1.5 million out of the project, and then when we open the number, you're going to hang me, hang them, or the contractor's going to walk away with a free $1 million in his pocket.
Yeah, simplify this again for me. I probably came in late.
That's okay.
We were working on 49,774.
Yes. Yep. So
It's now 59,588 or 56.
we have two different estimates that we just got in this week.
Okay.
So we wanted to have this meeting with the committee to kind of show you, here's what the economy's telling us. And this is the same process we did at schematic design. We went out to two different estimators, got them in a room together, which we'll do tomorrow, and go through, just as you see down the very bottom there, you see one number. John, I don't know if you can slide over. You got a $3 million in the shaded column, 3.5 million. Yeah, keep going. So what is that line item? General conditions. So general conditions, we had reconciled at 3.5 million. One estimator saying it's now 4.2, the other saying 4.4. So we got to look at that number tomorrow with the two estimators and say, okay, what is that based on? Are we both seeing this as a 24-month project? Do you both have the same duration? Do you both have the same general conditions? It's a trailer, it's mobilized guys. What's all of a sudden from a year ago when we had them both agreeing, both estimators agree, 3.5 is a good number. Now let's go forward, and this is interesting because it's not a matter of design, right? It's not like we put high-end fixtures onto this. This is just the general management of the project. Why are they seeing it go up? Now, that can be a couple of things when we drill down into it. They're going to rent the same trailers they were a year ago, but are the estimators planning on higher cost of utilities for general conditions, running heating equipment, running electricity? Something in there is making them think that number went up by close to $1 million in some cases. So we need to drill down on those details. I guess, you know, what we're here today to tell you is that we have an issue, right? Houston, we have an issue. We're not ready to throw the baby out with the bathwater yet. We still plan on making our submission to MSBA on your behalf. We want to have the same conversation with them that we're having with you, because we know from the market, every district is in this same boat looking to make a submission in April, whether they're submitting on their SD set, whether they're submitting on their DD set, or whether they're walking in, as some are, saying, hey, it's spring, we're ready to go to bid with our project and we're $4 million over budget, What can you do to help us? Now, the answer to that question, as you know, we just went through this with MSBA, it's 6 months ago maybe, and they increased their rate. I don't think they're in a position to blanket increase everybody on a market fluctuation that may come back and level off somewhere. So for the design team, as well as the district, over the next 6 weeks, we're going to be going through some hard knocks. We need to look at the education. We need to look at the space. We need to look at the fit, the finish, every piece of material in this design space to help kind of bring the thing back.
Is it safe to say, Tony, that 49 million number is with some, I hate to use the term Spartan, but I mean, we took a lot of the frills out, didn't we?
We did.
Are we gonna find any more frills in this? You're not.
It's very tough.
I'm not.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, in one project that we're working on, we're looking at, eliminating a lot of the glass because this type of, and
Right.
it's a different type of building.
I remember.
Storefront is very expensive. Let's just go with masonry. Can we get the masonry? We can't get extruded aluminums. We can't get certain things. So we're looking at, yes, Mr. Owner, not you for this particular example. You wanted a nice glass building with a lot of transparency and everything. Well, you're getting a lot more brick and a lot more closed-in masonry building, which changes the look, right? They wanted a very contemporary, modern glass building.
Right.
They're getting a very brick, traditional style building.
So the glazing, glass is more expensive than just a brick wall,
On a wall front, on the wall of a building, glass.
as a wall, you mean?
Right, as a
Okay.
wall, because it's not structural.
Right.
So it changes the whole design. We need to not leave any stone unturned, as they say, and we need to look at, now, there's only so much we can do. If you just looked at this number and said, well, use that dollar per square foot, how much square footage do we need to cut? We'll just cut square footage. We've gone through that with this building.
Yeah.
And I'll throw Diana and Ed onto the screen here in a minute. We can't cut 15,000 square feet out of this building. It doesn't work. It doesn't work for the grades, and it wouldn't pass MSBA.
That now you're cutting into the education process.
Right.
And yeah, not gonna happen. You're reducing class sizes, which affects numbers of kids and
Right.
and the quality of the instruction and
Right.
so.
To the MSBA project funding, project scope and budget agreement, there's certain things now that we've locked into.
Right.
We can't just go back to them, even though, we're gonna go back and say, can you help us out with $3 million? They're gonna say no.
Yeah.
If I go in and say, we're gonna cut 10,000 square feet out, they're gonna say, it's the wrong program, doesn't work, right? Or something's gotta give somewhere. And we can't, we can bet the economy.
So at the worst, we're looking at a $10 million increase?
Correct.
Okay.
So I'll ask Ed and Diana, you guys wanna weigh in here at all?
I can just echo, Tony, some of the things you were saying before. I'm sure Diana's going to jump in, but we've been through, this has been a long process. We've had many meetings, and from the last go around, I think we're all aware there's always something that can be cut out of a building, of any project, but there's not a lot left here, certainly not, in the order of $10 million of things we can look at. And I just wanted to echo the point with the program. I mean, that MSBA program has been approved, and there's very little that goes beyond the mandated spaces and sizes. So that's another area where there's no room to really dig dig into that, in my opinion. But Diana, what's your opinion here?
I don't have much to add to what Colliers and Ed said. We are seeing this with other projects. The cost is going up very quickly and very drastically. So we have to take a look at the building, but we have, as you all have already acknowledged, really tried to take out any frills. And it is important to keep, obviously, the program that aligns with your educational plan.
And the only other thing I can add, and Diane, Ed, you can weigh in as well. I just came from a meeting this morning having to tell a client, your 28 million is really 33 we're projecting now. And they had a lot of conversation about, well, do we need the building right now? Do we wait? They're in a position where they can actually think about waiting a year. What if we just hold it? It's not a school, it's a building they need, but they have one now, right? But in a year, who's to say where that number is going to go? It may correct itself to some extent, level off. But if they wait a year and then start the design process, the 33 might be 35. All you're doing is kicking the can down the road.
Yeah, it's a crapshoot.
Not really at this point looking for a vote of the committee to move forward or do anything drastic. Our goal in working with Diana and Ed, go through the reconciliation tomorrow with the two estimators, drill down on every stick, brick, piece of insulation, piece of mechanical equipment. We've had a lot of conversations as a design team with Russ and the district and the educators. We just need to find anything that we can put on an add alternate list because we've taken the big site add alternate off, right? That's not happening. Now we need to find things that we can slide to that add alternate list in hopes that the market corrects itself. Maybe we can bring some of those things back.
Okay.
I
What's
wish
next?
I had better news.
What's next? When do we get together again? What do we do?
So, yeah, we're going to take about a month before we get back together with you. We're going to go through the value engineering process, the reconciliation between Sam and Colliers. We're going to put everything on the list that we can possibly put on there as either, yes, move it to an add alternate, no, take it right out of the project, that's a good savings, let's grab it. There might be a list for future considerations, but go through all that, and we need to ask everybody involved, the district, the educators, Russ, from a maintenance and operational standpoint. We need to go through the full design and look for anything that's, what if we didn't have it? What if we didn't do it? What if we did it later? Put it on an add alternate that if we get lucky enough that 6 comes down to 3% escalation, and we pick up $1.5 million, that's great. How do we best use it?
Okay.
Bob?
Tony, I have a question.
Sure.
As you were talking about this cost increasing, have you on any, or as colleagues on any existing projects or some looked at how much of the raw materials are just, I guess, petroleum based, or is it everything across the board?
Generally, everything is costing more. That's kind of where we start. But it's definitely the petroleum-based things. Craig and I were talking earlier. One of the craziest things that's gone up is roofing, roof insulation, rubber roofing, everything to the wiring jacket, the plastic, if you will, on electrical wiring is all petroleum-based. And everything has to get shipped to the site by somebody, right? So it's every trucking, every shipping, every cost delay, every pipeline delay is adding money. And it's hard to get to the bottom of which ones are really driving the industry up. But we know it's the heavy petroleum products, insulation board, rigid insulation is a problem. Site work has gone up because you think about heavy equipment on site, which this project has a lot of site equipment. Those big pieces of site equipment, they don't run cheap.
So tomorrow or over the next couple of days, you and Colliers and Sam will get together, and then we have another meeting in about 4 weeks' time. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, so tomorrow we're scheduled to meet with the two estimators. First thing, we get them in a room together and we look at everything within their estimates to find out why they're 3 million apart, right? 2.7 million just between the two of them. In most cases, we know that the quantity, the square foot, certain material quantities are very transferable, right? They both got to have the same amount of roof. It's the same building, it's 115,000 square foot, it's got to be the same. So now we look at why one guy is thinking roofing is $28 a square foot versus 32. And we'll have those conversations and try to rectify it and say, okay, we're going to settle on 30. That might be the case. But each of them in their own process will say, fine, I'll give you the 30, but I want another half a point on escalation because I don't know where it's going to end up. So we end up having to broker a deal between the two estimators to try to get something that Sam, Colliers, and the two estimators are comfortable with. And then from there, we start going through and saying, okay, what if we didn't do, epoxy on the cafeteria floors? What if we went to a sealed concrete and we'll put epoxy in the ad alternate, that type of a thing, so that if the bids come in favorable, now we can grab the epoxy, put a nice finished floor on there, or 5 years later, you can always put an epoxy finished floor in there if money becomes available, right? So we've got to look at every aspect of the building from start to finish, durable, maintainable, initial cost versus life cycle cost, and we put them all on a list for you, and like I say, in about 4 weeks, and say, okay, here's where we reconciled, here's what everybody kind of agrees to, here's some ideas where we might save more money. You say yes, no, in, out, add alternate, that one's in, that one's an add alternate, and we come up with a package that we can share with MSBA.
And what's getting submitted to MSBA next Tuesday is the reconciliation?
Correct. Yep. They want to at least know that we've reconciled, and they're going to come back, as I said, with the same question. We see your ad alternate, we see your reconciled pricing, you're over budget, what are you doing? Because we're submitting, they don't have their board meeting, I think that was on your list, John, I don't forget what the date was. Their board meeting is sometime after our submission, and we'll need to have those answers. And it's no different than the processes we've been through, Bob, where they go through the drawings and do the same thing. And they'll write a list of review comments back to us. Have you thought about this? Why are you doing that? Here's where we think you are in your process. Do you agree or not? And so we'll be doing our homework in anticipation of their review comments.
So before the next time that we get together as a school building committee, would Colliers and Sam get together with the school district leadership and the school-based leadership to go through this, process of, what do we keep, what do we put on as an alternate?
Yes, what we want to be able to do before the building committee is go through it. Here's what we think fits the ad alternates. Here's what we think is just out and gone. Here's what's in. Make sure that we clear it with finance, the city, the district, so that when it gets presented to the building committee, it's kind of a somewhat vetted process, and you're looking for their buy-in. Because again, it's, MSBA always looks for those voted on meeting minutes that says, okay, this is what the district, the architect, and the OPM came up with. It was agreed to by the building committee. It's been voted on at city council. It's been voted on at school committee. And we go through those same checks and balances again.
Okay.
But
You've
it's gonna-
explained it pretty clearly, Tony.
Huh?
You've explained it pretty clearly.
Okay.
I have no questions or comments.
It's going to take us, you know, the next 3 weeks to pull all that together before we're ready to issue it. And, you know, we want to vet every one of those ideas and assumptions. We want to work with Russ and the operational team. We've been doing a lot of, you know, city meetings with DPW, with police, fire, talking about access to the building, utilities, drive lanes, parking lanes, turning radiuses. Some of you may have sat in on, you know, a discussion of where do we put snow storage, the plowing and the zigzag walkways. We've got to look at it all again.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions of Colliers or Son? Hearing none, I would say with Tony and Diana and Ed, we look forward to talking with you over the next few weeks. And I guess if there's no other comments, I would make motion to adjourn. Right here, second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting so adjourned at 3:32. Thank you.
Thank you.